Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke, but I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
And how's he doing with his new job? Is he enjoying it?
Are we on? We're on air.
That's okay.
Sorry.
He's I'll tell you more later.
Okay.
But he takes the 63. My son takes the Series 63 tomorrow, so.
Well, he'll be fine.
Yeah. So I just shared a joke with you at the break. I was sharing that I was coming home. I think I was coming home from Chicago, and if a trip was within 1,000 miles, I typically would drive. And I was coming home, and I was on Route 80 in Pennsylvania. I wasn't going to make it to New York, and I called Dick Lick, and I said, "Help me out. Help me out with a hotel because there just wasn't a lot around." And he said, "Yeah, there's a Ramadan off the next exit." So he hadn't heard of Ramadan or the Ramada, but needless to say, it stuck with me. So yeah, pretty cute. So we were talking about religion. I also, being the very, very, very youngest of six, mistake child, got the least religious instruction. I was born, what the hell was I? Am I? Oof. Oh my God, Lutheran. Wow. I haven't thought about that in 175 years. But very little religious instruction. And by the time I was old enough to align with something, I had already fallen in love with the Buddhism philosophically. I'm a philosopher, so it just was, and that was the very little religious instruction my boys got. And their father had long stepped away from Catholicism, just so you know. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, that's news to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I there's a lot of irony in being Buddhist philosophically based on just the hardships I've had, but it was remarkably helpful because it was a philosophy and not a religion. You also educated me on Ramadan, which is I think winter.
No, every year it's a little different. So the Muslim calendar is 9 days shorter than the Western calendar, or what is deemed the Gregorian calendar. So every year it's 9 days prior. So this past year it started in March.
Oh, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, I'd play football and I'd be fasting during the middle of like fall, September, and then when I got to high school, summer, while playing football and fasting, and that was not easy, especially down in the South.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer, going back down to the topic, Ramadan, it's a blessed month for us as Muslims because we fast from sunrise to sundown, and not only just from like food and water, although that's the biggest concept people take away from it, is that we just don't eat and drink. But no, we also fast in our actions. What I mean by that is like we're not supposed to cuss. You're not supposed to have sex with your girlfriend. You're not supposed to do things like that.
Can you have sex with somebody else's girlfriend?
No.
I'm being an asshole.
That got me off guard. But no. So yeah, we can't do that. We can't cuss. We aren't supposed to get mad, amongst other things. So it's like really just like a fast of yourself. from just the otherworldly things that we have going on in our day to day, um, that really plague us mentally, physically. So it's just kind of mentally taking a break from it and growing closer to God.
Gotcha.
Because when you can't eat and drink all day, what are you gonna do? Really? Like you're just gonna sit there, watch TV, you're gonna get bored. You're gonna read a book, you're gonna finish too many books in that month. So you sit there and you just get closer to God, you pray, you read the Quran, things like that. But I mean, the biggest reason why we do it is a couple things. That's well, mainly to get closer to God first and foremost. To realize that this world is not permanent; it's temporary. So to grow closer to God and in that light. But then the other thing is, look, we're all blessed. I don't care what anybody's financial situation is. You are born in the United States, you are more blessed than 85% of the world out there. If you are blessed, if you have more than $10 in your bank account, you're blessed than more than 94% of the world out there. So with that being said, I mean, the beauty of Ramadan to me isn't just getting closer to God. It is, but more so also just being humble, realizing, look, I'm hungry. I'm gonna walk into my kitchen, look in the pantry, look in the fridge, and I'm gonna grab something to eat with no problem. Same thing if I want water. There's a lot of people out there that really don't have that blessing, let alone clean clothes, a roof over their head.
Do you ever
So
have a
it,
quandary in your head? I'm interrupting, but I'm curious. Do you ever have a quandary uh, being in finance with what you just said?
uh, sometimes.
And I'm not trying to start a conversation we can't have. Meaning we
No,
can't.
trust me, I know what you mean.
All right.
Sometimes I do have that, like in a way, like I see my therapist. I was having this conversation with him a couple of weeks ago. I have survivor skill, even though I never grew up overseas. I have survivor skill just watching everything going on
Uh,
around the world and just knowing that, like, okay, the only difference between me and people in XYZ countries, I was just lucky enough to be born in the States, nothing else.
yeah, we've sort of lost that here. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying. We can go there, but I prefer. I was leading
No, we'll
to.
stay on topic.
Well, it's because it's something that uh, several months ago I was talking to you about my beliefs about AI having the ability to recognize that humans can be multidimensional, and I meant third, fourth, fifth, sixth dimension. And you brought up the concept of Jinn, Jinn.
Yep.
And we were not, yesterday we realized I was talking more spiritually, you were talking more physics. Can you
Yeah.
can you explain the concept of Jinn?
Yeah. So Jinn are both spiritual and physical in the Muslim faith. Jinn is also, if you've seen the movie Aladdin, it's this inspiration behind genie, to be honest with you. What Jinn are basically Muslims believe that God created two creatures. Well, multiple creatures, but two main creatures of free will to practice religion and worship God. One, humans were made from clay, and then jinn, which are made from hellfire. Now, jinn are lower ranked than angels in terms of like spiritually, but they are basically like a supernatural being that can be seen in Islam. Or not just in Islam, but in life, but we believe it in Islam. That we can't see them naturally unless they want us to see them. They can come in various forms, whether it's a person, whether it's an animal. So there's various ways to look at it, but in more or less, Muslims don't view jinn in the most positive light because the majority of them, we believe, do not worship God in the way that God intended, and that they rather us sin because they will also partake in heaven and hell. So we don't believe we believe the majority of them have not been good and are typically associated with adultery, or not adultery, idolatry. which is like the worship of idols and things like that. So you think about the old times, people worshiping animals and sacrificing animals, whatever, to random gods. That's like kind of that type of conversation, if that makes sense.
And you had an experience. You want to share it or no?
Yeah, I had an experience when I was a kid. I remember my mom, again, I mentioned she was going through cancer. At the time, my father was overseas. So she beat cancer at this point. She was in remission. But if you're familiar with cancer, they do make you take pills after you go into remission to kind of help with warding it off and preventing it from coming back. So my mom was heavily sedated underneath these pills. And I remember waking up, it was like 3 in the morning, went to use the bathroom. My bathroom was right outside of my room. Go to the toilet, come back, and there's just a random man laying on my bed. Like what I thought was a man,
Mm.
what I really believe was a Jinn. Just this tall, dark figure, bearded, just sitting in my room. And then I started freaking out, tried waking up my mom. She wouldn't wake up. She was sedated, as I mentioned. And when I was just sitting there, I started reciting the Quran. And one of the chapters in the Quran is what we call Surat An-Nas, the chapter of the people, and talks about protection from all people. And one of those people it mentions is the jinn. So after I read that chapter of the Quran, the Jinn-like figure, the human-like figure. I'm still like very confused to this day, but I wish I could explain it any better, but it's just very perplexing to me,
Hmm.
especially as a kid saying that. But this creature gets off my bed, comes stares me down in my room windows or door window, um, and then just proceeded to walk to my window. And at the time, I was living on the second floor of my parents' house. Right next to my window was uh, the what's it called? The ceiling, not the ceiling, the roof of the home. Sorry, I can't speak this morning. But yeah, the roof of the home was there, and all of a sudden I just see this man go through the window, like open the window door, go through it, and from there I just ran to the window thinking that I would see the man on the roof. He wasn't there. I just see a black dog sitting in the yard. And we, at the time, didn't have any neighbors who had dogs, especially a black dog. We had one neighbor all the way at the end of the street who had a golden retriever, but not a black lab. So that was just something weird. And the dog just kept pacing around my like window, staring up at me from down below. It was just, I don't know, it's something I can't get out of my head. It's something I do get goosebumps every time I talk about.
Yep.
Um, so it's a little weird. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, my mom had her own experience when she was a kid overseas growing up. She woke up while she was asleep taking a nap, and she heard two women over talking, like right above her. And the conversation they were having is, should we wake her? Should we wake her? Should we wake her? No, no, let's leave her sleeping. It was like a debate that went on for like 2 minutes. When my mom opened her eyes, like they were just talking, nobody was there. So in another way to look at it from an American sense, it's the equivalent of like ghosts.
Mm.
Um, However, we don't believe that they were once human and then they died and all that stuff. No, we believe that they were essentially spirits that were cast as jinn, in other words, in America, ghosts from young age. So
Interesting. I, as an intuitive, I've had some interesting experiences, and I'm definitely not going to go there now. But I think one thing I do very, not often, but I will very consciously ask my higher self, I guess, to just go easy on me because of how much I see and feel already. Does that make sense, knowing me?
yeah,
And I once had a woman that worked for me. I had left the house, and I came back. I don't remember where I had gone, which doesn't matter, but I had gone away, I think, for a day or two. I think. It wasn't like I went off for an afternoon. I had been out of the house for a couple of days. And I came back and she says, "Do you know what goes on in this house?" And I said,
What?
"Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't think about it." And she said, she was telling me some of the experiences she had while I was gone. And I said, "Good. I'm glad they got it out of their system, man, because I just, and I never felt, I mean, you saw my former house and was pretty
Yeah.
isolated, but I never felt uncomfortable there. Never had anything surrounding my mom's death. Some wacky tobacco things went on, but that was all very spiritual. Nothing negative. So yeah, I just like hearing about those things. But I definitely, because of being claircognizant, I don't think, have I ever told you I'm claircognizant?
Yeah, you mentioned it once.
So that is that's like that's the my main Claire, and all the other ones that fall around it I don't pay a ton of attention to, because it becomes too much. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Uh, and I
It
was I
does. It's
was
not
and
easy.
I was just really happy that we got to talk about that, because it was separate from what I meant. It really was clarifying between the two of us that I was talking about multi dimensions and you were talking about them in a different context. And
Yeah.
you just explained it. Um, um, okay, cool. You said something that I didn't give a lot of attention to 10 minutes ago about having survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And I know that a year or so ago, when we did the podcast, it was before um, the things
I
with.
believe so.
One more time.
I believe it was before it,
It
if
was
I'm not
before
mistaken.
the what's going
Yeah.
down in Gaza, and so that's one of the reasons I'm interested in hearing what we talked about. But you also, tell me if you're okay with me saying this, you were a year or so ago really struggling with anxiety.
Yeah.
Is that how you made the connection to survivor's guilt?
Uh, Partially from anxiety. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about it. Partially from depression, both. Just between, like, I know people that are in Gaza. Um, Talking to them, hearing random quadcopters in the background, as you can hear in their voice the hunger, the thirst, the scare that they have. Yeah, it definitely eats at me. Especially knowing that, like, my mom had extended family on that, on her side, that were uh, wiped out in one night,
Sorry.
all 64 members in one night. So, like, to me, that's why, again, I look at it from a survivor skill perspective, because, like, I look at it as, okay, if that was only, I don't know, that was like my mom's third or fourth cousin family, but, like, if that was 3 lines away, right? How would I feel if I was just happened to be born there? Like, that's why I feel subconsciously, like, I don't know, guilt
Mm-hmm.
one way or the other, just because, like, I want to give more, I want to help more, and it's like, no matter what I do, it's being in this society, in this world, it's like kind of limited what you can do and what you can say to help, just because of everything from a political perspective, also from the fact that, like, as an American, we pay our taxes, and, like, I watch, as a proud American, our homeless struggle. I watch our children have funding cut, cancer being cut, all this stuff, while at the same time, in 6 months marks the first time we've spent over $1 trillion on war in a single year,
Yeah.
and that happened in 6 months. It's disheartening for me. That's why I feel survivor's guilt, is because it's like, subconsciously, deep down, that no matter what you do, no matter how much money you spend, no matter what you can do to help out, your money's still funding the opposite side, which is propelling the death of your own family members, your own people. So it's something that is not easy, to say the least. Just having to know that deep down, that, like, no matter what I'm doing, I'm funding what's going on over there. You know,
Yep.
especially while I watch, like, I have friends that served in the military. I watched them. Some of them have PTSD. Like they can't get a good job for the life of them, and yet we're funding this. We can't take care of our own homeless. We can't take care of our own veterans, our own education. That's what's disheartening to me as an American, as a Palestinian American. It's also knowing that like my taxes go to killing my own people.
I'm sorry. We don't we don't I don't have any questions. What I mean, I'm still the product of I don't know if I ever told you I lost my dad to cancer.
No, I did not know that.
I was 12 going on 13, and he was in World War II and had PTSD, and his father was in World War I and had PTSD. And I think I've said it before, my mother was German living in this country and treated brutally as a child.
As an immigrant.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't. My father was.
Well, her parents were. If she
Right.
was,
Right.
yeah. So I mean,
Well-
I consider like myself as an immigrant, even though I was born here because my parents came here. I'm first generation. Like going back overseas, I go back, people go, oh, you're American. I'm here, people go, oh, you're Arab. I don't fit in either culture. So I can relate to your mom on that one. Because, like, I can imagine her growing up here in the States following everything that happened in World War II and the fallout from there in the Cold War till the wall of Berlin. She probably felt like some stigma towards that. She felt like a little ostracized, probably to some degree, just being German, something she can't control.
Yeah, she was. She was, and her brother went over to fight Germans, his own people.
Yeah.
What I was trying to get to was, I'm still ancestrally carrying, as are most Americans. It's not something I do personally, but I'm just very aware of it. That I have CPTSD, and I know that some of that is tied to the carry from my father. And I'm trying to learn more, and I can't speak to it well. The DNA carry with PTSD, the cellular carry.
Yeah.
It's something that it's out there. I just haven't had the opportunity yet to figure it out. But I just feel, as I'm sure you do, it's starting all over. We never got our central nervous systems have never had a break from war.
No. No, I mean, this is something I haven't shared with you as much, but when you talked earlier about my upbringing and like how that's molded me, I mean, that's part of the reason why I feel like I have the background I have, or the understanding I have in this world, is because like growing up, I would go overseas often, spend time with my grandparents, all that stuff. That's why yesterday when we were on the phone, you were shocked as I was talking to my bodega guy in Arabic. You're like, I didn't know you spoke Arabic. Because I went overseas often, spent a lot of time with grandparents, stuff like that. I was forced to learn Arabic, but going over there as a kid, I saw a lot of shit. Excuse my language, but I saw a lot of shit that most adults can't imagine. I saw that at the age of 5 or 6. So that's why, like, going back down to it, I feel blessed in my experience, not because I went through that shit. Nobody should go through it, but just because of the ability to see both sides of my culture. To your mom's point, or her side, her growing up as a German in the United States, even though she was born here, all that stuff, it's not easy, especially when she knows what was going down overseas. I can imagine it weighed heavily on her. So to answer or bring it full circle, that's why I relate to your mom very heavily on what you just shared with me, because I didn't know that personally prior to this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you did share that with me, because I didn't know that about her. And I loved your mom, don't get me wrong. It just paints her in a new light to me. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know that side of her. It makes me really appreciate all of her that I knew.
How many times did you meet her? Because now I am crying again.
Your mom probably was 6, 7 times.
Wow.
I was over at your house quite a bit, especially when Cocksuck and Dicklick lived there. Um, so yeah, no, I met her a good bit. She was a very sweet lady, but I didn't know that about her. So you find something new out, which was
Yeah,
intriguing.
yeah, but I also, well, I think the this is going to be a tough analogy, but I think the cycle of abuse mirrors the cycle of war.
Oh, 100%.
So, yeah, but mom never I can't speak for her, and I never asked, and my father never spoke of the war. My father was a paratrooper supposedly in Normandy.
Wow.
Yeah, so
God bless.
yeah, there's one of my mother's uncles, no, cousins, is still alive in his 80s, and I think my uncle, I had an uncle at was D-Day Normandy? I'm not asking, I'm thinking out
Yeah.
loud. Battle of the Bulge. My uncle was at Battle of the Bulge because D-Day is associated with Normandy, and I'm no history buff. But anyway, it was just the mentality, the way that you just described your feelings for your relatives and ancestors. It wasn't like that. Like the connection is almost greater today because of history than, I mean, they were American for all intents and purposes. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There was a disconnect, but that probably was dissociation. Ironically, and I don't know if I said this to you, but I say the word dissociation all the time because we're such a dissociative culture in America. But it's interesting to me, very interesting, to listen to people such as yourself who have such phenomenal self-awareness that can speak to it with in such a, I don't want, concise sounds trite, but it's just, you just said it so beautifully. And
I appreciate that.
I mean, I don't know much at all about my ancestors other than I know I carry grief for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
The
it
grief
does.
carry is like when you were describing survivor's guilt, my brain goes to the grief carry, which, I mean, they're not one and the same, but they're pretty damn similar.
Yeah.
So,
No, they are. I mean, I'll argue that they are not one and the same to your point, but damn near close.
yeah, yeah. Where are we time-wise, Brian? All right, I want to, let's wrap this up. Just your honesty, I love you, kid.
Oh, I love you too, Joanne.
All right, we're going to take a break and then do another one.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.